Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost, and it's Friday, and it's October, what is it, 25th? Yeah, it's Friday, October 25th. I'm terrible with dates. I have no idea what date it is ever. But this is Theater Resources Unlimited. For those of you who are stumbling upon Theater Resources Unlimited unwittingly in YouTube or podcast land, I just want you to know that we're a not-for-profit organization. We've been around for 32 years. People always say to me, 32 years, how come I never heard of you? And I always say, I don't know. I have no idea why you haven't heard. We haven't been secret about it. We're here and we're here to help people understand and navigate the business of theater. That's what we do. Started these Zoom casts April 17th, 2020, as a response to, guess what? COVID. And we were originally basically a community service. It was a life-saving measure to make sure that the theater community didn't go absolutely out of their minds. So people would come in on Fridays to meet each other and to hear people talk about theater. And I got a lot of people through the shutdown, and I'm very proud of that. Um, the other thing that sort of was interesting is that we're Theater Resources Unlimited. We're just a small little New York-based arts organization, except that since 2020, April 17th, 2027, 2020, my brain is just racing right now. We've been doing this virtually, and we've had audiences from all over the world. So we're no longer just New York centric. We're really global, and that's amazing to me. But we have people from all over the country in the room today, and we often have people from Australia and UK and Malaysia and Singapore and Germany. They pop up from everywhere. So that's been a big, it's been a nice thing that came out of shutdown, let's just say. Our conversations basically have gone all over the place in terms of theater and the arts. And one of the things I really like to do is over the past 4 years, I've introduced people to theater companies that do really great work. And that I just want people to know them, and I want people to know about who they are and what they do. A lot of them are in New York, but I've also been doing a lot of companies that have been from all over the United States, and even Europe. We did a Polish company like about a month ago. So today you're going to meet Naked Angels, and I'm going to just leave speaker view and come into the room, and I want you to say hello to Marie McKee, Renee-Michele Brunet, Michael C. O'Day, which rhymes with Brunet, so I'll remember that, and Bryant Jager, which is the pretty much the team. It's the Naked Angels team. So thank you all for being here. I don't think any of you expected to be here today. I met Jean Marie. I think it was Jean Marie and Renee. I met you.
Oh, I
I,
think I met you too before, but not. I think you met Jean Marie and Barbara more recently.
I was Barbara. I knew that I met you with somebody the Tuesday night, and I said,
Yeah,
"Hey, you
yeah.
want to come on the show?" It's like you went, "What?" So I'm glad this all worked out. So I'm so happy to have you. Yeah, Renee, I do know you, but not just from Naked Angels, from something
I
else.
feel like I know you from like maybe Inverse. Did you work with Inverse Theater Company?
I know them. I've never worked with anybody. I run
I
Theater Resources Unlimited. I work here. That's what I do. Um,
I
but I
I
tr
know you look familiar though.
and you
There's
do too.
something
You do too.
familiar.
You do too. Absolutely. So who should I start with? I guess Jean Marie. You are the artistic director. Um, Naked Angels. Just a little background for everybody. Founded in 1986. So this is not a new company, guys. They've been around. For those of you who ask how come you never heard of Theater Resources Unlimited, I'm going to expect that nobody's going to say they haven't heard of Naked Angels because you've been a prominent part of the theater community for so many years. Let's talk a little bit about the founding and the development of Naked Angels. Jean Marie, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's do that first.
Hi, I'm Marie McKee, and I'm the artistic director of Naked Angels. In 1986, Fisher Stevens, he was my boyfriend, and
Oh my God, it's Sarah, Fisher. What's
he
her
asked me
name?
that a couple of actors had gotten together. They wanted to start a theater company, and they were going to do a reading of Waiting for Lefty. And they needed girls, of course. And so he asked me to come and read. And at that reading, the people who were there, we just said, okay, we are a theater company. And that's how it really started.
And
And
in 1986, I was friendly with his mother, which is
yeah,
which is
sure.
just crazy. It's just crazy. So I must have been aware of when you were actually founded.
Yeah.
'Cause-
We were
More to the
very
point, you must
young.
have some really interesting gossip.
yeah, I probably do. Oh boy.
Um, and then, yeah, people kept coming, and we grew to we had 40, I think 45 founding members, basically. You can see them on our website. Their names are there.
My mind is blown though. I can't believe it was Fisher Stevens. How did I not know this? I'm interviewing you. I'm a fool.
Fisher is a kind of like in a Venn diagram. Fisher is often in the center. Um, But yeah, so we're still here. We produced over 71 plays, I believe. One of them went from Tuesdays at 9 to First Mondays to off Broadway, and then all the way to Broadway, and that was
That would be
Jeffrey
next fall.
next fall.
I remember next fall. I love next fall.
Mhm. And yeah, and when it came on as artistic director, I basically had come on when in 2010 my children were in middle school and high school, and I noticed that creative writing had just stopped in public school or any school, I think. And I thought, gosh, that's just awful. And I took my kids to Tuesdays at 9, and they loved it. And that gave me the idea to do a sort of a Tuesdays at 9 for young people. And at the time, the artistic director was Andy Donald, who is the artistic director at ACT in San Francisco now. Um, and he was like all on board, and he really was super helpful. And we got the 3T program up and running. And over the years, it just grew and grew. And then Liz Carlson was the artistic director, and she was leaving. And she asked me if I would be the artistic director. And I did it. I said, yeah, sure. And um, because I do not feel like I'm a producer. And gosh, listening to all of everyone's what you're doing right now, I was so like, wow, everybody's doing so much theater. And I just think that's so great. People are always saying, oh, theater, it's just dying or something. But I have never been to so many shows, just going one show after another. People are still producing, and it's just wonderful to hear all the work that y'all are doing. Um,
Well,
and
well, thank you
yeah.
for that. So I've got some specific questions that I'm going to ask you. I want to meet the other guests today because you each have your own role. Now I'm going to go to Brian. Brian, uh, tell us what you do.
Hi, my name is Bryant Jager. I am the Director of Operations and also Programming Director for First Mondays. And I'm also the newest member of Naked Angels. I started about 2 months ago. So it's all kind of surreal because I've been in and out of going to Tuesdays at 9 for about 10 years. And I was a little more consistent the past couple of years. So it feels very serendipitous of just like being a part of it and being a part of a community of like like-minded people. So it's really cool.
Community, that's a very important thing. That's what we're all about here. So Brian, we all know like dozens, hundreds of theater companies. Very few of them have a director of operations.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about how your company evolved from being a kind of mass run by the run by the inmates in 1986 to actually moving into a more structured kind of you have an infrastructure now. You actually have people that work for you who do things. It's like, oh, well, that's very refreshing. So
Yeah.
so tell us,
No.
what do you do as a director of operations?
Director of Operations, I'm assisting Jean Marie with all the tasks that go on, just putting the word out there of just like letting people know about Tuesdays at 9. We often have different, you know, readings going on and just like doing outreach to kind of like let people know. There's a reason why it's the longest running cold series in, I believe the country, and just like getting the word out and keeping members active, keeping people updated about what's going on, and kind of just like pushing the word out there and getting people involved. And I think that's one thing that I do love about it, where you start seeing, and maybe this, I personally feel it's kind of like Cheers, where it's like you go to this place and you start being familiar with the same people, and it's a kind of a testament of just like I think Naked Angels has done something so beautiful of like having that consistency, because you often see some people doing their version of just like getting people together, but it's kind of just like continuing the process of just like putting the word out there, getting fresh work from different artists. So a lot of my role involves just like doing outreach and assisting Jean Marie of just like any other tasks on the side. So yeah.
Well, I'm still I know it sounds silly, but I'm just always impressed when I meet a company that has an infrastructure. It's like doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Renee-Michele because I'm hopefully we're gonna get a stabilized Wi-Fi with you.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know what was going on. Ironically, I was the one that ran the Zoom, for a year and a half while we were on Zoom. And I knew all of the things. For some reason, my computer is, I think, now is getting old and was feeling a little warm and needed a break. So I switched over to my phone. So sorry for
but your
the
phone looks great, actually.
yeah. Well, it's a brand new one, which is the front facing camera is actually this is a front facing camera.
Yeah, I
So
know. I'm getting that. It's like amazing. When you said it was your phone, I was like, nah.
yeah, no, this is
Yeah.
the 16 Pro. Anyway, yeah. So I have been involved with the company off and on for 17 years. I moved to New York in 2007. And I started participating on a cold winter night in 2008. I was new to New York. I think I'd lived here for I moved in the summertime in like June, July of 2007. And then in February of 2008, I was bored and lonely and looking for friends and people to hang out with and people who were like-minded. Um, and I found an ad in the back of it was like a timeout or backstage or something that just said free cold reading series and had the address, and it was at the Crane Theater, not the main stage of the Crane Theater, but the one that was as upstairs above the KGB bar. And I went and
Which one was the Red Room?
that
Would have been the room.
that probably is the Red Room.
Yeah, okay.
The KGB bar is the one is right at the bar that's in the middle of the two. And I went there not knowing anybody. I think the first night I might have been asked to read stage direction. And I kept coming back. And after a short time, I decided that this was the thing that I was going to do every Tuesday night. So the only reasons I have not attended Tuesdays in, I would say probably 15 years is the 1 year I spent living in California and when I was in grad school. Those are the only times that I really took off. And while I was in grad school, Jean Marie became the artistic director, and she and I were friends, and she had often cast me in things. And hold on one second, because my dog is. Are you getting into something that you shouldn't?
Okay.
Spoiler alert, Gidget is getting into something that she shouldn't.
Apparently.
Gigi is notorious for stealing my thunder when I'm on a Zoom, but it was just a Pringles box. So.
It's just a Pringles box. Hopefully she didn't get her paw stuck in it.
No, she's good.
Like the TV commercial.
That would be great, and I probably would have gotten it on my Furbo camera in the living room, which could have been good marketing.
Absolutely. so the fact that you're here and the fact that you have the title that you have, I think answers a question that a lot of us in the room probably had, which is, do you do musicals? And you're a music director, so I'm assuming that the answer is yes, you do.
So yes, yeah. The end story of that is that Jean Marie hired me to do some small things, and then she hired me to do a lot more, which is what I do now. So I'm the stage manager of the evening, and I'm also the musical director, wherein I book musical acts. For our musical structure, we usually ask a guest to bring in 2 songs, and it's a 10-minute set. We have not done as many musicals, but actually this week we are going to be featuring a triple threat actor, writer, singer who's going to be doing a musical that she's working on. So I am interested in exploring more musicals and having people bring in a little bit of the book too. We've explored that, but generally it's been, singer-songwriters, but we're sort of expanding the view into also including musical theater, but it's not like a cold reading for the musical theater aspect. Like it wouldn't be like picking somebody to sight read something on a Tuesday night, if that makes sense. Sorry. Yeah. Also, animals galore. They really ham it up when I'm sitting in front of a Zoom. If you go onto the YouTube and you look at our 200 videos, you're going to see dozens of them with cats. My favorite was Jennifer Manachirian, who's constantly had her cat walking in front of her when I was interviewing her. So we're cat friendly. Yeah, this one is Figs. She's a ham.
Okay.
And yeah,
so we're going to get into the specifics of how your programs run, but I want to introduce Michael C. O'Day because he's connected with one of your main programs, which is Tuesdays at 9. So, Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about Tuesdays at 9?
Yes, to define what it is that we actually do at Tuesdays at 9, which we've sort of talked around for a bit. We are, as one of you pointed out, the longest continuous cold reading series in America. We were founded 34 years ago, or 33 years ago, in 1991, by the Naked Angels folks as a forum. The model has since spread to other cities. There's a chapter in Los Angeles, for one or two of you who I heard was out in LA, Chicago and Miami as well. And it is a format for cold reads of works in progress. We take 10-page, or in the case of solo pieces, 5-page installments to work out to roughly 10 to 12 minutes of material for each. The general format is that we do a solo piece, or multi-character pieces, be they plays, film scripts, TV shows, webisodes, or whatever people are coming up with these days, and the aforementioned musical guest. When we do the musicals that you guys were talking about, the format there is that we cast the book parts as if they were one of the regular multi-character pieces, and then the musical guest just does the songs that are being presented. So we're treating it as like a play with a special guest musical artist for.
Okay, so let's go back and just draw a line under something. So the Tuesdays at 9 are excerpts from plays. They're not readings of plays. They're excerpts.
That is
10 minutes.
Correct, and that is what the connection is to First Mondays. If a writer has brought in multiple installments of a piece, Again, it's those 10 to 12-minute excerpts to just hear how they work in our forum. Then they have a chance to then be submitted to the first Monday's program that Bryant runs to have a full-length presentation. But in order to do that, you've heard how the excerpts have been going in our room, and the whole point of our room is that we have a theatrical audience. You're not doing the cold read around a table. You're not doing it in a classroom setting. As valuable as those are, you are hearing what a live audience is going to respond to your stuff much earlier in your process than you normally would ever get.
So I'm going to ask you something, because I'm a playwright. I don't know if you know that, but my primary role in theater used to be playwright and also composer and lyricist. How does a writer determine? I'm just asking as a writer, how does a writer determine a 10 minutes out of a longer play that they're going to present? And do you give them guidance with that?
Not normally, no. We are here to serve you guys. So the question is, what process works best for you? If you want to just hear the first 10 pages just to see how that goes, that's great. If there's a specific excerpt of it that's been giving you trouble, and you want to hear how it sounds with actors, that's great. If there's a section of it you finally nailed down and you want to do a victory lap because you got it to work after how many months you've been working on it, that's also great.
So have you had writers that have come in and presented multiple 10-minute excerpts during these? So
Yep.
So a writer can get a sense of more than just 10 minutes in their play, which is useful, but it doesn't give us all the information we need. So that's good. So they can come back and they can present more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's highly encouraged.
Entirely encouraged. Okay, so let's go to the other piece of this, which is, where do the actors come from?
Apparently from timeout ads or wherever it is.
Oh, no, I mean how you have it set up so that actors come in cold on Tuesday nights.
Yes, it is a cold read. Actors come in cold. So however you found out about us, whether it was through word of mouth or through whatever advertising is out there, or for forums like this, you show up that Tuesday night. For this Tuesday and for most Tuesdays, we're at 154 Christopher Street these days.
That's the old Wings Theater, right?
Yep. You can sort of tell how old we are in the ecosystem by whether we remember it as the New Ohio Theater or as the Wings Theater.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it as both, but I remember it as the Wings.
Yeah, it's that space. It is a lovely space. It's really good for what we do. And you show up. And once we open the doors, you say hi to me and to Barbara Matovu, who you have met, who is my co-creative director. And we are grabbing the actors cold based on what the needs of that week's programming happen to be.
So you're casting actors are randomly coming in. You don't let them know ahead of time what the roles would be. They just randomly come in, and they're chosen or not chosen based on whether there is something that is appropriate for them.
That is correct.
Okay. And they're encouraged, even if they don't get to do a role, they are still kind of welcomed into your community and encouraged to come back and.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not here to pass judgment on anybody. We are here to facilitate as much as possible, both facilitating the development of the plays, facilitating any possible production opportunities for the plays, and facilitating the actors having a space to network and get to know who everybody is. If we didn't get to you in a given night, and just going by the numbers, we're gonna put up around a quarter of the attendees who come on any given night. So yeah, there will be many people in the audience, being the audience, and giving the responses that are what we are about.
So I'm gonna ask Jean Marie. I could ask you, but I want to bring Jean Marie back into the conversation. So Jean Marie, at what point can a writer or an actor say they're a naked angel? You're muted.
We have our founding members, and they whether they do or not, still consider themselves naked angels. But if you come to Tuesdays at 9, you're part of the community. We're very community minded. We're about developing plays as well as working with youth. All of our programs are free, so that makes it very accessible. The 154 Christopher is also ADA compliant. And we try to get when people come in and they're new, we try to greet them and explain a little bit of how Tuesdays at 9 goes, but it's really best to just come and enjoy it and see how it all works, and then just keep coming back. And gosh, people have gotten married from Tuesdays at 9. But many films have been made and plays because people found each other at Tuesdays at 9. And
So
I
Brian,
would, I was just going to add on to that for me, Naked Angels is a community from the moment you step foot into. If it's a community you want to be part of, we want you to be part of it. And I think that goes from the very beginning. There are some people who are now like regulars who've only been there for a year, but like the second they walked in, it was they recognized it as a space that was valuable for them, that included them, and that's something that's really special to me. That's what I think drew the community to me, or drew me to the community rather. And I would say more than anything, we're a community based rather than like networking based. Also, hi, thanks, of course.
and I noticed how your cat upstaged you yet again.
Always.
All right. So Brian, so this is kind of what you were talking about when you were saying what you did. We have more of a context for it now. So you basically you're getting the word out to encourage actors to come on Tuesdays, because you need the actors, and you're also spreading the word so that more and more writers can know about you. Let me ask whoever wants to answer this: how many 10-minute excerpts do you do in your usual Tuesday night?
It's that format that I mentioned earlier. So you're getting one solo piece, which is a 5-page excerpt of a novel, short story, dramatic, your one-person show, whatever your Homeric hymns that you've decided to bring back, whatever it happens to be, that's what we lead with. There will be a total of 4 multi-character excerpts. So those are plays and films and TV shows and whatnot. And then there is the musical interlude, which is usually singer-songwriters, but if you are a musical writer and you have a 10-page excerpt that includes a book scene and your song and a book scene for context, that would fall under that purview.
So how long is an evening?
We try and get you out of there in 90 minutes.
Okay.
Or actually, technically, it's going to be.
I think if anybody's there, they're not anxious to get out of there. I think they're there because they want to be.
Yeah, we're going to try and keep you spending money at the bar to pay our rent. So there's that as well. But yeah, we are trying to keep this as efficiently run as possible and as efficiently performed as possible, because you're coming to hear how this excerpt of your piece works.
So I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, because just so you know that it's hard for some of us writers so if we're going to submit to you, we're going to submit our 10-minute excerpt. We're not going to submit our play and say, do you like our play? We're just going to submit the 10-minute excerpt.
Yep. And if it's hard, just give us the first 10 pages and Barbara and I will figure out a good stopping point if you need one. But
yeah, I think there are writers who could use the guidance.
Well, again, the guidance in that case wouldn't be more than saying, just cut it off here.
Okay.
Because that's a nice button. We're not going to keep it, because hearing how it works is the point.
Right. So how do people submit to you?
At the end of every evening, Barbara and I will say, hi, thanks for coming, and stand there as the writers bring up 2 hard copies, Barbara. That's Barbara. So
Hi, Barbara.
look for the two of us and bring hard copies of those 10-page excerpts. One for me, one for Barbara. Barbara and I will read them. Fair warning, during the course of a season, we get 2 to 3 times more pieces than we have spots for. We are not looking to say, oh, this doesn't fit. Ooh, this is the wrong font. Goodbye. Just to do that. No, we read everything. We actively want as broad a range of voices as possible. So by all means, bring stuff. If you brought something 2 years ago and never heard back from us, that doesn't mean anything. Bring more stuff. That's cool.
And I think I remember from your website that you don't accept any kind of email submissions, that basically it's hard copies that you want. Right? Okay. So the point is, in case anybody's not figuring this out,
the point there is you want to take at least one time to just see how this actually works. It's one thing to hear us talk about it, but you need to know what the hell you're in for. So come hear how it works, see what the process is like in terms of how it's cast, how it's put up, how a stage reading works in those kind of performance conditions. And once you go, oh, okay. And then bring those little 10-page excerpts to us. And
so what everybody needs to understand is Tuesday nights at what time?
We open the doors at 8:15 at 154 Christopher Street. Renee-Michele and me and Barbara will give you some welcome and community announcements, much like you did at the top of this Zoom meeting, starting at 8:45, and then the readings themselves start at 9.
Okay. So anybody in this room who wants to become part of you, all they have to do is step into the Wings Theater, and they are there. They are there. They are naked angels.
They are an angel. They've become an angel.
They become an angel. They may or may not get. They're not going to get
properly known as 154 Christopher Street, simply because combining the phrases Wings Theater and naked angels.
Yes. That could be confusing.
For those who remember what Wings is. So.
Yeah. So Barbara, let's meet you, because you're popping in late. I knew that you had something else to do. So say hi to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are, what your background is, and what you do. I think well, I'm not going to say. You can tell us what you do at Naked Angels.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Barbara Matovu. I have been coming to Naked Angels, gosh, I think since 2010 or 2011, something like that. I started coming as an actor, and for years just kind of showed up as an actor. I'm sure they explained the process, and gradually got to read more and know get to know more people in the community. And then around 2015, I decided I'd like dip my toe and try writing something. And so eventually I started submitting some things as a writer. And then during the pandemic, I was asked to come on as a co-creative director with Michael and help curate the evenings. So that's what I've been doing since then.
So you are working with Michael as a co-curator of Tuesdays at 9. Does it, Owen, mighty voice of God? Have there been any questions so far that we should address?
We just got one from Tita and Terry's. What generally are you looking for when you choose one of the too many 10-minute excerpts, so you balance need for development versus not boring audience?
I will let Barbara answer that, because I'm typing the response right now.
I mean, that's a good question. We look for variety. We don't, in one night, we don't want to put up a series of 5 pieces about people dealing with their roommates. So that's why we always read them in advance, so we can mix up both the subject matter and the cast sizes. We look for Michael and I read at different paces, but and then come together and talk about them. So for me, it's about like things that engage and excite me. Like, is there do I want to hear more? Even if it's like a self-contained piece, is there some element of like, oh, what else is there in this piece? I assume Michael mentioned that we also do solo pieces. What is the voice of this character or this story? Is it a story that we've heard, or is it a new twist on a story that we've heard or we think we know? So that's just some of the things that I'm thinking about when I'm reading. Michael, feel free to add your thoughts.
That is all true. I just put it into the chat, but there are just a huge number of variables that Barbara and I are considering when we're programming. We're thinking of, again, that breadth of material, of making sure we're showing as much love to as broad a group of actors as possible, that we have a balance in terms of the kind of subject matter and tone. So I would not ever try to game the system. It's an ungameable system. The important thing is to care about what you're writing.
So I'm curious. Do you have an interest in a 10-minute play, or do you prefer that it be a 10-minute excerpt from a longer play?
No preference.
Okay, so you do full, complete plays. You'll do complete 10-minute plays.
Yeah.
Or you'll do 10 minutes of a 12-minute play, apparently. So, all right.
We'd probably ask you to trim some stage directions in that case.
Yeah, I do. I'm involved in a 12-minute series, and I don't even want to go there. It's so hard to judge whether something's going to read at 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what
you never can. I have to tell you from my own experience for the past several years.
Yeah.
I always think that we've got a play that we do 12 minutes. You're doing 10 minutes. I always think that we got a 12-minute, and suddenly they're 14 and they're 16 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And page excerpts have been known to sprawl, so we try and keep that to a minimum. But again, we're here to serve writers more than anything else. I saw a question just come in the chat. We don't have any proprietary rights to anything we put up. We're just the place for you to do it. So.
I do want to give Lee an answer that will tell her what the next step is, because you don't just do Tuesdays at 9.
Right.
There is another part. There are two other parts of your program that I want to actually cover. I want to cover the reading series, and I also want to cover your educational programs. So who wants to take it? Probably Jean Marie. Are you a Jean, or are you always a Jean Marie?
I'm a Jean Marie.
Jean Marie. Okay. I only said Jean once.
I will talk about the 3T program, and then I'll let Bryant talk about the first Mondays, because that's the full length series. The 3T program, as I mentioned before, it came out, I got the idea from Tuesdays at 9. And it started out as an after-school high school program, and it was very successful back in, 2011, 2012, 13. And in 2017, I was asked by a wonderful organization called Culture for One that brings the arts to youth in foster care, children in foster care, if we would bring a workshop there. And so we created something. We needed something that was self-contained, that it was just in an hour and a half, because foster care, the kids there are it's a lot of transition. So, we couldn't do like a series or anything, which is what we had been doing. And we did this workshop, and it was just extremely successful. And they had all sorts of foster care group homes for us to go to. And that's what we have been doing ever since. But we have branched out. We now also go to District 79 schools, which are alternative schools for youth who cannot go to regular high school for various reasons. They've been have experience with the court system. They're facing incarceration. They're in foster care. They're way behind in their academics, various things, and substance abuse. And we work with these kids as well, and it's really, really fabulous. The kids write a scene right there, and it's performed by the team of actors that I bring. And it's really, really fun, and the kids really enjoy it. And the staff is always like, "Oh my gosh, that kid! Wow, we had no idea they could write. We had no idea they were funny." It's just really, really very rewarding. And yeah, and I will turn it over to Bryant to talk about our first Mondays.
Yeah. A little bit Michael mentions, after a couple of exposures, about 3 at Tuesdays at 9, people who want to submit more fleshed out plays, more full length plays, they'll submit it, and Jean Marie and I will kind of look through to see what kind of works, and I'll figure out the programming for First Mondays. And it was established in 2003, and we are currently partnered with the New School, which they so graciously have a space that we can have the writers and actors, directors kind of like use this as a platform to kind of like see how the work sounds out loud in front of a group of people. And there have been a couple of plays that kind of had success, which is pretty awesome to see it develop even further from the first Mondays. So it is kind of just like seeing the actors kind of like work out what they have to do. And there's very little rehearsals, but all the time that I've been a part of it, it's kind of like the actors are so well, the writing is so well, and it's kind of just like a knockout of the park where it works together. We had one of our first Mondays back in September, which was a reading from one of the writers who have been coming to Tuesdays for such a long time. And we have our second one in December, which is very exciting just to kind of like see the plays and see the variety of different works that are being presented and people's different voices. So yeah, it's hosted at the New School. So similar to Tuesdays at 9, it's free for the public if anybody ever wants to come. And yeah.
So you may have said this, and I may have missed it. There is no rehearsal for the readings, or is there rehearsal for the readings?
There is one rehearsal that usually happens right before the reading, but also actors and the director will get the script ahead of time to kind of just like look through it if they have any questions. But there's usually like 1, maybe 2 rehearsals the day of earlier, and it's kind of just like to work out stage directions, work out certain points that the writer wanted to make or the director wants to make, just to have the flow of the evening go well.
You said one of the magic words that I was going to ask you about. Mommy, where do directors come from? Where do these people find the directors?
Sometimes the writer will have a specific director that they have in mind. Sometimes we'll have somebody from the community. We'll look around to see if anybody is interested in directing it. And it's kind of just like works out in such a great way where again, the community building and you getting to know somebody's voice or somebody's the way that they work, that it's kind of like you look at something and you're like, oh, this person would be great for this, or this person would be great to direct this piece. And it's very collaborative and it kind of just all comes together. So yeah.
I actually forgot to say something to the room before we started. Everybody in the room, I want to make sure you know that you need to put your email address into our chat so that we know you're here. That's how we take attendance. It's the first time in 4 years I've forgotten to say that. So if you haven't let us know you're here, do that now so that we can follow up with you, because I think we're gonna keep in touch with these guys, and we're gonna send more information hopefully and answer any questions that aren't answered today. That was one of the things that popped into my head when you were saying all this, is like, where do they get a director? I think directors are pretty crucial for a first reading. I know there are some writers that are comfortable guiding the reading, but I think having another point of view, having another eye, is really helpful, even at this early stage.
especially at the early stage.
Yeah.
I agree. But I come from an MFA background where I had actors, writers, and directors in my program, and knowing and understanding from the beginning developing process that having a director in the room that is not the writer is like almost imperative to get that third eye, that third set of eyes on it that like isn't as what's the word, isn't as invested in the writing, so that they can be more objective with the story.
And I just want to say, whatever the guidelines are that Naked Angels provides, as a writer, I think most of us will want to spend a little time with the director before we start that rehearsal process, just to make sure the director is seeing things the same way that we are. So that's the very complicated world of theater, where there's a relationship between a writer and a director that is hugely important. And then there's a way of communicating the subtexts and the heart of the play to actors that isn't always best coming from a writer. That's my experience, at least. So, Owen, any other questions?
Not that I've seen. Most have been answered. You all have been very good at writing responses to questions in the chat. So thank you for.
Oh, if
I
you
did.
are.
I saw a question. It said, "Do we produce any of the plays?" And we don't do that anymore. We used to, but we've gone away from that in our theater, in our, not motto, what's the word, in our
mission
statement. Yeah, that we're more that Naked Angels. Tuesdays at 9, first Mondays, and 3T are really intended for working on developing work rather than producing it, because I think the producing side ends up happening inherently through other channels, and it just, for our theater company, it becomes too expensive to try to undertake a larger production.
Well,
but we are here to facilitate those very channels, and we've had a bunch of things getting produced of late. Just, I know we don't like to name drop, but just so that you have some frames of reference for what's going on. The most recent production of one of the First Monday's plays, getting a larger production in New York, was a Pam Weiler Grayson piece called Observant, which got a lot of ink. I know that there's a number of recent First Monday's pieces which have had some regional productions of late, like Catherine Weingarten's I Want a Unicorn Frap and Vince Gatton's You've Earned Bonus Stars.
Gatton, we know Vince.
Yeah, Vince is one of us. Vince does yeah.
I'm sorry. Vince is one of us.
All the other discussion. Vince Gatton, he works with us. And,
he works with us too.
Now you want
we can share custody. We can share custody, Michael.
I had no idea. I had no idea he was unfaithful. I'm shocked.
We have the Vince Gatton seal of approval. That is the most important thing to convey to your members here.
Yes.
So I want to say to Owen that just because somebody answered a question in the chat doesn't mean you shouldn't be asking a question, because the people in YouTube, and there's 30 or 40 of us today, but they're going to be like 1,000 to 3,000 YouTube viewers who don't have the chat. So go back.
Well, we did just get a question from Marilyn. Does LA Naked Angels work the same way?
Yes.
I can also add, because I just typed it in the chat. Or Jean Marie, did you want to answer it?
They work almost the same. They have their little city flavor, but it's basically the same. Yeah.
So another question I have for you is, have you ever considered doing some sort of a membership kind of model, or do you have members?
No, no, we are a development series, Tuesdays at 9 and first Mondays, it's a development series. And so we don't have members, we're a community, everybody is welcome and you are part of the community when you arrive. And there's a question here, do you have ways to draw potential producers or casting agents to Tuesdays or Mondays? Everyone is welcome. But we do not, ask casting agents or anybody to come, if in that for a particular reason or anything, because we are a development company. These scripts are very raw, brand new, and they're just being developed, and so they're not
But
ready.
that said, casting directors would be welcome to come
Yes.
to Tuesdays, and it would, in fact, if you are a casting director or know a casting director that you would love to introduce us to, you can they can come and see the wealth of talent in the room.
Casting directors have come and they have cast people
Yeah.
from Nine.
So the big thing we all have to remember is it's Tuesdays.
Are founding members, as I understand it.
It's Tuesdays at 8:15 is when the doors open. So that we can all pop in there and become instant naked angels. I love that. So we're members of the community immediately. I want to ask you, do you mind if I ask you some questions about, because our main mission is to help people understand the business of theater. And we develop producers as well as writers, but we have a lot of people that we've developed who are producers. Can you talk a little bit about the structure of your company? The thing that is almost too obvious to ask, but I do want to ask it. Are you a 501c3 not-for-profit?
Yes, we are. We've been 501c3 since 1986.
So when Fisher and the other 45 of us closest friends started this, you immediately became a not-for-profit. It's interesting.
It may have taken us a couple of years. Maybe it was 88. I can't remember exactly now the year. But yeah, very soon after.
But you also your model changed from 1986 I think it was 1992 that's when they decided that having instead of having a self-run company, there should be a guiding force, and that's when I think you first started having an artistic director. What was the job title?
Yeah, it was artistic director. I thought it started a little bit earlier than that, maybe 1989 or something was our first one. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure I read it on your website, but I might be wrong.
Well, then that's probably, everything's very hazy from that era. We were very young.
We were very young. We were very merry. We went back and forth on the ferry. When were you with it from the very start?
Yes.
Okay, so for 86, you go back to 86. When did you take on the reins of being the artistic director?
2017.
Why did it take that long?
Because in the 90s, honestly, I wasn't around Naked Angels. I was still I would try to go when I could, but they had 2 babies, and I really wasn't that involved at that point.
2 babies, that's all you need to say. Okay. There we go. And when you came on as artistic director, were there any things that you changed? Were there any things that you adjusted, adapted? Tell me what was your contribution to the company?
My contribution was developing the 3T workshops for young people. And I always thought Tuesdays at 9 was the beating heart of Naked Angels. It started in 1991, I think, and it was always so much fun, and it just developed through the years, and it just kept going through the years. And I just thought it was amazing, and it is now the longest running cold reading series in America. And when I came on, those Tuesdays at 9, first Mondays, and 3T workshops were the things that I loved, and I wanted to see carry on. I'm not a producer, and I just not a producer. I love producers, but I'm not I'm not a producer. So we don't produce right now. We're just at development. And yeah, that's really the big change. I just think theater is just a wonderful way to grow communities. And I'm very into community.
I
So you're
think also I'd like to add to, I think, Jean Marie, you're something that you've done really well for in the last several years in advocating for more diversity in our community. Our community has historically been a fairly white space for a very long time. I'm not going to lie, it sometimes, it depends on the night, and it sometimes still can be. But I think that we are constantly trying to make sure that we uplift voices of people of color, people in the LGBTQIA community. I think that women, I think and I think Barbara and Michael do a really great job at casting with as diverse net as we can. It is always dependent on what the writing is, but that has become part of our one of the most important parts of our mission statement is diversity, equity, inclusion in our company, and I think that that's something really important to say. We may not be perfect, and we may not get it perfect every single time, and I hope that the effort can be seen and acknowledged while we're trying to work with what we have and what we get into the room. Yeah.
No, I totally get it. We're kind of in the same area. A lot of companies are trying heartily to make that change over and to be more inclusive. And I think most of us are really sincere about it. We're genuine about wanting that to happen. I know I am, and I get you are too.
Yeah.
So, Owen, back to you. You said the questions were answered in the chat. Can we hear some of those questions so that my YouTube audience can be part of those discussions?
Sure thing. Let me find one. Actually, I think the only I may have overestimated. There was a question earlier about how you came up with the name Naked Angels.
There you go. That's one of my questions that I forgot to ask. Why did they come up with, why did Fisher decide to call this Naked Angels? Or was he involved?
He didn't decide. It was a big discussion. It took us weeks and weeks. Many names were put out there, and it was put to a vote. There were several names, and one of them was Naked Angels. It's a book by, I think it's Stephen or John Tytell, Tytell, and it's called Naked Angels, and it's about the Beat poets. And several members of Naked Angels were very into the Beat poets at that point. And
there's something very Allen Ginsberg about it. And I think William
yes.
Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg, and there's a whole raft of people that were influential, and I think in this decision, as I am imagining it happening. Yeah. So it was hip. It was a hip thing to do with Naked Angels. How do you support your work? Is it just donations? Is it donations to grants? I don't see any. Well, you had said that buying concessions on Tuesday evenings helps pay the rent. Obviously, you have to pay. Every Tuesday night you have to pay rent for that space. So there you have expenses.
We have a lot of expenses, and most of our expenses are because we want to pay those who work for us, like Renee-Michele, Michael, Bryant, and Barbara. And none of them get paid what they're worth. I'll tell you that. We should be paying them more. I wish we could. That's always a big thing, is staffing, because I'm the only full-time staff person, and it's very hard to run an entire the 3 different programs, and with all the other stuff you have to, compliance and all that stuff. And yeah, so the funding is writing grants, which I do a lot of. And we also, we get individual donations. And just this past year, Renee-Michele, who is a fabulous producer, produced our film festival, which was a fundraiser. And a lot of the films that have been developed at Tuesdays at 9 were in this festival, and it was a huge success. And we'll probably do it again because it was so successful. But that's, it's how it is. You're always chasing money. And yeah.
It's my life.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. What do I do for a living? I beg. That's what I do. I beg for a living. And actually, people have been very generous with us. And I noticed a shift in generosity when shutdown happened. Suddenly, people were really, really eager to give as much support to arts organizations as they possibly could. Some of us survived, some of us didn't. I mean, I know that some had to shut down during shutdown. But I think I'm very grateful for the generosity of the community. The community has been very, very good to us. And so we're still here and you're still here. And you've been around longer than we have. So mazel tov. Does anybody have any questions before I wind this up? And guys, if you want to hang out a little bit, people will probably want to meet you if you can stay. Owen, any other last minute questions?
Not that I can see.
There's a question from Tina, but I have no idea what it means. Okay. All right. So excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to do my closing words for YouTube. And we will be, I hope you didn't say anything that you don't want to be on YouTube. I mean, I can edit it if I need to, but we'll be putting this up on YouTube within the next week. And we get a pretty good viewership. So more people will hear about you, hopefully from YouTube. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank my guests, Jean Marie, Michael, Bryant, Barbara, Renee-Michele, all of you. Wonderful, lovely people. Thank you for being part of this and for coming on today and being my guests. I want to thank my community. I want to thank all of you who came today, and so many of you who come just about every week. Unbelievable. What can I say? I just love you all. Thank you. You know that we have our benefit coming up on November 17th. So anybody who wants to support us can consider coming to our benefit November 17th. For those of you out there in YouTube land who want to be part of this and want to come into the room and meet people and ask questions, I can make that happen. Just email me at trunltd@aol.com. That's trunltd@aol.com. As I mentioned earlier, this was started off as a community service, and we're very happy to have people come and pay what you can. And we have lots of people who come for free, and that's perfectly fine. However, pay what you can sometimes can mean pay something. So if you want to pay something, consider giving us like a minimal $8 ticket or whatever. We have different levels on our ticketing page. And if you want to give us a donation, hey, I wouldn't say no. Just go to trudonate.com. It's trudonate.com. And you can support us and help keep us healthy and strong so that we can keep doing this for another 4 years. I love doing these community gatherings. I don't know if I'm ever going to stop. We have some interesting people coming up in the future, including Tony-winning designer Beowulf Borit, and we have producer Jamila Bragg coming on, and I got a whole lineup of people that I have to start promoting so that you know that they're coming on. Join us. Hope to see you. And I guess that's it.